Hi, Ann Cornick from Paintnporcelain. I'm here to help beginners get started in China painting and also to encourage experienced painters to paint along with us. And today, we're just going to finish up on eggs. Nothing real fancy, but there's a couple of embellishment ideas I wanted to share with you, and I thought this would be a really good time to do it. Last time, we worked with the egg lathe, as you remember. And this time, I'm going to be showing you how to use an enamel alternative called base for raised gold to kind of accent your eggs. And this is what I've done, the little beads along here. Of course, you could do just about anything that you can draw with the bottles that you put this in, but this is just an idea of something that's very simple for beginners that you could do. There are a number of different bottles that you can use to put your base for raised gold in once you have it mixed up. The first one that I have, and this is actually my preference, is this one. It's called a needlepoint glue bottle. And I wanted to make sure I showed it to you while you're close to the screen like this, because it has a metal top, has a little rubber stopper that comes off, and it's very, very, very thin, and it's nice. I store it upside down so that I always have the enamel or the base for raised gold available to me and always towards the tip, and it doesn't leak. That's the one thing I like about it. Kay Meyer from the Dearborn Group actually showed us how to do this originally, and she used a bottle like this. And this bottle is okay, but one of the things that I noticed was it worked fine the first couple of times, but then the top got a little loose. You can see how that's wobbly up there. And I can't store it upside down because it leaks. So the first bottle I showed you is about $1.99, and you can get it at Hobby Lobby. These usually you get a couple in a set, and they're like $2.99 for those. So that's just an idea of another way you can apply this. And the final way is a syringe like this. Now you look at it and you think, oh my God, how am I going to clean this? But the top unscrews like that. Makes it very easy for cleaning, and you can screw it back on. But the thing with this was, you see how big this is compared to what I use. And to mix up this much, or even enough to fill a partial of this, just seems like it's almost, not worth it. So yeah, there. This is the egg lathe that we used last time. And we're going to use it a little bit this time too. One of the things, if you were watching last time, that you saw was I showed you how to do a smile by putting it in here and lining up the back hole of your egg with the bottom and using these little indicators on here so that you knew where the halfway mark was. Turn it so you can see a little better. And then we took our pencil, I'll pretend this is a pencil, and we drew a smile here. And then we turned it around and did the same on the other side. And I said I thought you could paint the outside and then do the inside of this. And that way you could have an oval on there. And so I experimented, and I had some luster. Now, I hadn't used this luster before, and it came out a lot thicker than I expected. One thing you shouldn't be afraid of doing is experimenting. And I took the time to experiment on this egg because, you have to have one that didn't turn out exactly the way you want to in order to know what to do differently the next time. As you can see on this one, because it was so thick, it came out with a lot of lines. Now, I didn't play with it very much because I know you can't keep going over luster over and over because you do get the choppy lines. But I don't think I diluted it enough. So if you get this kind of a thing where you see the differences and you're not happy with it, I think you can just dilute your luster a little more and you'll get a better finish on it. I think I can put a luster over a luster. I will find out. I'm going to try that and see if I can put mother of pearl over this and if that'll help even it out. Sometimes they turn a weird color, so you're just going to have to, and I have a list of lusters that you can combine, and I'll look at that list before I go ahead and try this. But I just thought I would show you that you can do the outside of that egg after you put the little half circles on there. The way you do it is you start and you paint the bottom of the egg first, all over the bottom of the egg. Then you get one of these and you put the egg on, and you hold it by the part that you're not going to be painting, and you finish the egg this way, and you can rotate it right on this. This is one of those posts that you put in the kiln for your eggs, and it'll give you a nice smooth finish on there. So that's the way I did this. Then I put it in the kiln just like this and fired it. And now the next thing I will do is paint the center like this with something, and then fire that. And the last thing I will do is put any kind of embellishment around the edge, because you can see my edge is really icky. So this is my experiment egg. And you know, always set aside, like if you go to and buy some china, always set aside a piece that maybe you're not really crazy about that you can experiment on. And that's what I did with this. I don't like the shiny eggs. I prefer the bisque eggs. And so I'm using this shiny egg to experiment with the luster on, and also to experiment with the inside of it. Okay, another reason I like the base for raised gold is because you can use stuff that you have on hand on a regular basis to mix it up and to apply it. And the only thing you need, like I said, is the little applicator like I showed you, like this. This is the one I prefer because it doesn't leak, and it really keeps the base for raised gold very, very soft and pliable. For this has been in here, what I have in here right now has been in here almost 2 weeks, and it's perfectly fine. So this is what base for raised gold looks like. Now this is an old Ryan China's base for raised gold. I looked around because I didn't know who sells it. It looks like Ashcroft Studios, Mary Ashcroft, does sell the base for raised gold. I didn't see it on the Dallas site or the Maryland China site. So, and you know, if you're looking for it, it ran about $4 for this size, I would assume. So you just take and you put, I use usually the whole vial, but in this case I won't, because I don't have a whole lot that I still need to put this on. And I put it on my tile. Let me move my tile over so you can see a little better. Okay, it's white on white on white, but there you can see how much I put on there. It's about a nickel's worth. And it's kind of lumped up there, so you can see it on the tile. Okay, and then I'm going to add, in this case, I add mineral oil. Now, mineral oil you always have available because you use it, if you're like me, because you use it to mix your paints, to keep your paints pliable. So I can use mineral oil. Now I want quite a bit of mineral oil, so I'm going to use my eyedropper in the mineral oil that I have. I keep it in a little separate container so I don't have to grab the big one each time. And I'm going to put 2 or 3 good-sized drops on there. And then I'm just going to mix it like I would my paint. Okay, and it needs a little more. I'm going to add a few more drops and mix it again. And you just keep doing that until you get it creamy. And creamy is the consistency that you would if you were mixing your paint. So now when I get down to the point where I still have a little powder, I'll show you here. I still have a little powder to add to it, but I'm not sure how much I need. I'm just going to dip the end of my palette knife in the oil and then just bring it in. And if it's too much, I can, you know, blot it so I don't use both sides of the palette knife. And I would say this is what I would call creamy. So it's just like when you're mixing your paints. It's creamy. Now, if this were enamel and you were mixing it with an enamel medium, you would let it set for a little while. This is not enamel. This is base for raised gold. And it comes, in case you're tuning in late, it comes like this, base for raised gold, just so you can see what it's called for sure. So once I get it creamy, the next thing I'm going to do is add a little turpentine. And I do mean turpentine to it. So I have some turpentine. Clean off my little dropper. And I'm going to add 1 drop of turpentine. Just 1 drop. And then I'm going to put another drop on there. One thing I noticed when I did this little egg is that they dried kind of flat. And so I'm assuming I had too much turpentine in it, the mix. So this time I'm not going to put quite as much in the mix, but you have to get all the lumps and bumps out because you're putting it through a needle nose dropper bottle. And if you don't, it's going to clog up the needle. So really mix it. Do it in circles if you have to, but really mix it, keep gathering it up and flopping it over and mixing it. So kind of like you do with your paints. Okay. Now it doesn't string. By stringing, I mean like this. You pull it up like this and it strings. That's what enamel does. But this is base for raised gold. It isn't going to do that for you. So now that I've got it the consistency I want it, I'm going to gather some up on my palette knife and I'm going to put it into my applicator. I store this applicator face down to keep it from getting, well, first of all, to make it so that, you know, you always have the base for raised gold available to you, but also because it helps to seal it. So I'm taking my base for raised gold and I'm scooping it off of my tile and putting it into this little applicator bottle. And the nice thing about this particular applicator bottle is it won't dry out. It has a metal cap on it that you can turn fairly tightly and then store upside down. And I usually just put it in with my brushes or something like that. So, okay, I'm going to put that back. I'm going to wipe off my palette knife. Going to take a little turp. Turp has a horrible smell to it, so if you're allergic to smells, this probably is not for you. I did, by the way, I got some of the Viva towel that Cheryl Meggs has been singing the praises of. That's what I'm using right here. And I have to tell you, I am very pleasantly surprised by it. One side of it is, like this side here is wrinkly. The other side is very smooth. The smooth side is the side that you want to use. And you can use it under here, you know, for your paints. But she also uses it like we would use a silk to pat off the color. And so I've been trying it, and it's a little bit different than what I'm used to, but I really think I like it. It's very thin, but it seems to work pretty well. So, I'm going to take an egg like this, and I want to put it around the band, just like I did on this egg. Can you see there? Yeah, you can see. So I'm going to put it in this way. And remember, we talked about this last time. I'm going to put the flat side against the left side and pull it all the way back. And then because this side has a curve, I'm going to put it where I have, this one has a small hole. In case you missed it last week, this is the small hole on my egg lathe. And this one has a much larger hole. I'm going to put the rounded part of the egg, this part, against the bigger side because it'll cradle it a little better. Then I'm going to hold this down here and push it as far as I can and tighten it so it holds my egg. And it has a spring in here that will keep it in place. Okay, that way I can turn the egg as I apply my my base for raised gold. Okay, so I'm going to take off the applicator top. You can rest your arm right here on this little thing, and it works really, really well. And I'm going to test it off on my tile just for a minute. Make sure I can get it out, because I just put more in there. Yep, it's coming off. And it'll also give you let's back up a minute. I think if you test it on a tile like this a little bit, it gives you an idea of how much to press down. I know you can't see very well, but press and practice on a tile first, and then bring your egg up, and you're going to just put a dot here. Oh, let me get a little more squirt there. Here, 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 here. Oops, now, let me show you what I've done. See the little dots? See how uneven they are in through here? I'm going to keep, you always keep a Q-tip handy. You can wipe off the offending dots. And you can reapply. And you can do both sides at once. You can come over here. And put them on there. A dot is the easiest form of doing this. And I'll show you how they came out. Okay? Another thing you can do if you want, and I'll try to hold this up so you can see it actually, is you could do little lines this way. Oops, hang on. Obviously holding it up makes my hand shake. And then you could do a cross hatch with it if you wanted, going back the other way. The little dots that you do come out like that. And obviously, if you have a shaky hand, that's not a problem. And the final thing you can do is like a little comma. And they turn out pretty nice. And that's just, you press down, get a little more out than you normally would for a dot, and then pull it around. See my little comma there? You could do that. Press and around. So these are things that I did on the dark part so you could see it, that you could use. You could use it like the comma, you could use going around this part of the egg up here. You could do a comma stroke, so you could do this. See, there's your comma stroke. So you can do a number of different things. You can get a lot of ideas from Pinterest. On my Pinterest page, pinterest.com/paintnporcelain, you will also find a number of different options for you. So that's something else that you can do. Those are just a few of the things that you can do to embellish your eggs using the base for raised gold. And it stays fresh for several weeks. It will be the last thing you do when you're painting, and you can only fire it once. Don't try to fire it a couple of times. It will not work. It'll start to pop off for you. So that's something that you really don't want to deal with. But you can use the base for raised gold, mix it with the mineral spirit, mineral oil, and get it creamy, and then add in a couple of drops of turpentine to thin it. And try not to get it too thin, because if you do, it's just going to run off. Practice on your tile. If it gets too thin, of course, you add a little more base for raised gold, and that will work for you. I've heard from other people that they use clove oil sometimes to mix it. Sometimes they use lavender oil. They let it set a little while, and then they thin it with turpentine, and that's something else that you could try. But anyway, that's a way that you can finish not only your eggs, but if you want to put it around on regular shiny, glazed china, you can use it on that as well to give you a nice little finish around the edge of something if you need to do a little bit of embellishment. And it's a simple embellishment for beginners, just using the dots. I hope you enjoyed the program, and I hope you'll take a minute to subscribe so that other people can learn more about China painting and we can get the word out to more people. You also can look at the links below. My Paintnporcelain.com website has a lot of freebies and printables for new and experienced painters, as well as studies, supplies, and even some of my hand-painted china. So thank you again, and I'll see you next time.